Alright, so I went ahead and set aside the chassis for a bit since we have these cut back, those tabs, and then everything reinstalled. So we're going to focus our attention more on this now. I've went ahead and removed this side rail, and I'm just going to show on camera how to do that with the other one. All you do, these are just slid into little holes, so you're just going to slide those out and pull them to the side. Do the front and the rear, slide them out. Then you'll come up here and you'll see these two, and you're just going to, again, pull those straight out. Oops, bumped the camera. And then this whole assembly just comes off. We'll set these aside for later, but for now they will be out of our way. So as you can see, the front and rear handrails are removed, and the sides. So now we have a clean slate to work with. Just note that there is some wires for lights and such. Yeah, I think the shell is pretty much ready to go. I am going to go ahead and remove the walkway tread, safety tread, just for now, because on my locomotives, I like to screw down through there into the pilot itself, so that there's actually some physical hardware holding that on versus just epoxy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use my X-Acto knife, get underneath of there, pull that up. I'm gonna scrape it clean, and then that'll be ready to reapply later with just some super glue. So here we are back with the safety treads removed, this back and the front. And now we're ready to set the shell aside and start working on spacers. Alright, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit, cutting the spacer shim to fit in between the pilot and the body. So in this, I'm just showing, I'm flushing up the front edge of the pilot with the shim, and I got the height of the shim by first measuring that before anything was even done to the locomotive. So I put a clamp on it and just trace it out with a pencil. This will give me the rough outline of where to cut the bulk of it out at. And then I will go back and tune everything up with a file. Now I've found that this is probably about the easiest way. So as you can see here, it's a good outline of what you need to cut out. And then what I'm going to do is actually just use the Dremel with a cutoff wheel and cut the bulk of it out. And this will allow me to just get, it's a lot quicker to use the Dremel than to start filing or using a knife. Now obviously this is sped up a little bit, but it really doesn't take a lot of time at all with the Dremel. And I'm just going to keep cutting until I get close to the pencil marks, but still be able to see the pencil marks. And then, like I said, I will use a file to go back and fine-tune everything that needs to be fine-tuned. All right, so here we are. This is just the rough cut as you can probably tell. Now, I'm not too concerned with what the back looks like. I'm going to clean it up, file it down, but it doesn't have to exactly match what the... and after we get it glued on, we can actually touch that up even if it's a little long. So what I did with the other side and what I did with mine is just another little detail, but I don't know if you guys can tell or not. If I can get it to focus, there it goes. But I cut this, let's see if it was better this way. There it goes. So I cut my spacer so that it actually sits back from the pilot itself to give the illusion that there's another step, so that when we attach this, it's not flush, but it's set back that little amount. That's probably a better way to show you guys. So it's not flush, it's actually going to be set back. Right there is flush. So I like to do that. Is it necessary? Probably not. Probably never notice it, but I like to go the extra mile and just do that. Makes it look a little nicer. But you certainly don't have to. So for marking out the distance back, I just measured this lower step, and then, I just measured the lower step, and then I got my pencil mark on there. I'll measure, there we go. I'll measure back from that pencil mark and then square that across and then notch that out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. So here I am marking back for the little notch out to give the illusion of a step. And I just get the bulk of it out again with the Dremel and then come back in with the file and file it down to where it needs to be. And I get that pretty darn close because that'll be about where it is. There's no real filing after the spacer is set onto the pilot and then glued on. So get that as close as you can. Alright, so with that time lapse, now what we have, and you might be able to see, I left the ends long and I just got notched out where is sitting back so that I don't have to do any filing beyond where the step is. So what I'm going to do now, this one is ready to get glued on. I'm going to glue the spacer onto the pilot. We're going to clamp it. Alright, so here we are, just gluing and attaching the spacer to the pilot. And I like to just scuff up the pilot itself, and then I'm going to clamp it. Let that dry, and then you can go ahead and use the Dremel and the file to fine-tune everything and get it exactly where it needs to be. Take your time with this and go slow. This is the part where you make it look decent and get it ready to attach to the frame. So here we are. I have sanded this down smooth, and I have everything all where it needs to be. This took about, I don't know, I'd say probably about a half hour at least. And one thing that I've learned is to use the Dremel with a sanding wheel on it. Now this is just a piece of sandpaper, and it's actually worn a little bit loose, so I probably need a new piece. But this is just one of those sandpaper wheels that you get from Dremel or wherever. And just take that, and that takes down this softer metal real easy. So now it is time to glue the pilot onto the shell. So what I'm going to do to start out with is just take a file, and this is the bigger file, and I'm just going to run, I'll show you guys, just run this along here to smooth out any bumps, and then I will take and just rough it up a little bit with the edge of a file. But first thing, I want to just make sure that there's no big humps in it. So I'll just take it a couple times like that, make sure that all the burrs are off, and now I'll just do like I did to attach the shim to the pilot and rough up this edge a little bit. That just gives the glue something to adhere to. It makes all those little grooves, makes it just a little bit stronger. So like that, just get a few scratches in it. And then I'm going to clean this area up so that I can lay the shell down, and we're going to position this and then glue it. So I have my engine cradle up here, foam, so that I can set the shell on it and I don't have to worry about damaging it. And now I am going to, let's see, where did that guy go? I'm going to make sure that this looks good first. So I'm going to position it on there right where I want it. And then that all looks really good. I'm just going to lift this up for a second, show you guys kind of where it should be. So I'll go ahead and glue this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glue onto the shell, because as you can see, there's not a lot to glue to. And this is another reason why I like to not rely on just epoxy or glue. I like to do the screws as well. So I'm going to get this set with glue. That'll hold it in place. Then I'll be able to drill it and screw into it. Now, I'm going to try to do this on camera, but I also don't want to mess it up, so I apologize if it gets off camera a little bit. I'm going to get this all lined up where I want it, and set in place. As you can see, this gel super glue is fairly forgiving. It does allow you to move it around a little bit. I'm thinking right there is pretty much spot on. Man, does that sit in there nice. So I'm just going to hold it for a second. Let the glue set up a little bit. That should be all right. Now, I'm just going to set the shell off to the side on its top. And then I will go ahead and prepare the other side Now, I glued this up a while ago, so the glue is definitely clamped, or definitely set, and the clamp stuck to the glue a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and file all this down, any long edges that I have in there, get it all cleaned up, file these down, and then attach it just like I did. So after I get this attached, I'll be right back and I'll show you how to drill the holes to for the screws